Welcome to Stories So Fall Asleep. Make yourself comfortable in bed, because today I'm going to accompany you on this incredible journey to a deep and relaxing sleep. Tonight, you will experience the story The Secret Light Inside an Old Attic. Subscribe to the channel to follow new stories every day, and if you want to receive exclusive stories, become a member of our YouTube channel. Get access to continuing stories, exclusive stories, and much more by becoming a member. By becoming a member of our channel, you will also be entered into a monthly draw for an all-expenses paid trip to the Bahamas with 2 companions. With each inhale and exhale, let my words transform into drowsiness and tranquility. Take a deep breath and exhale slowly. Feel your body relax. You have arrived. Now it's time to leave everything behind and just breathe. Inhale deeply, hold for a moment, and exhale slowly. Once again, breathe in and let go of everything that weighs you down, everything that doesn't need to be here right now. Let your body settle. Feel the mattress, the blanket, the silence around you. Now, just listen to my voice. There's nothing you need to do. Just listen and let each word lead you deeper. Come lighter. You are safe. You are at peace. And from now on, I'm going to tell you a story that begins in a simple place, but where time passes more slowly. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let your mind detach from the present. Feel the air entering your nostrils and leaving slowly, as if each breath were a veil that lifts, until it reveals an ancient and luminous world, full of wisdom, silence, and enchantment. Now, imagine yourself traveling gently back in time. Let the sounds of the modern world fade away, and listen to the silence. Quick warning: if you suffer from insomnia and anxiety, check out the first comment attached to this video, as I have a 7-minute trick that will eliminate your insomnia and anxiety today. Close your eyes, breathe very slowly, feel your body getting lighter, feel the world around you becoming distant, as if you were entering a secret place where time does not run, only breathes. Now, imagine an attic. Not a scary, cold, abandoned attic, but a different attic full of warmth, stories, and good silences. The walls are made of old wood, gilded by time. They creak softly with every breath of the wind, as if they were telling secrets only to you. Rays of light pass through small cracks in the roof, drawing silver lines in the air, as if the sky itself wanted to touch the objects stored there. Inside this attic, there is a little bit of everything. A wooden rocking horse, with faded paint, but still with bright eyes. An old music box that, from time to time, lets out a shy note, as if it reminded you of an old dance. Books piled up, covered in dust so fine it looks like fog. Forgotten balls, worn suitcases, sleeping dolls. And at the very bottom, almost hidden among a pile of old blankets, is a small lamp. It is made of light metal, painted sky blue. Its surface has some marks of time, small scratches, bits where the paint has peeled off, but that only makes it even more special. Its lampshade, rounded and soft, looks like a dream traveler's hat. Her thread is coiled in a spiral, as if she were dozing too. Her name is Luma, and contrary to what you may think, Luma is not just a lamp. She is a guardian of dreams. Luma doesn't remember exactly how long she's been there. Maybe years, maybe decades. Time, for objects that have souls, passes in a different way. He doesn't run in a straight line. He dances, he bends, he hides. All Luma knows is that at some point in the past, she lived days full of light and joy. She lit up a child's nights. She would stay on the nightstand, next to the small bed, spreading a warm, golden circle over the sheets and storybooks. Every time the child read a story, or invented a dream before going to sleep, a small part of that fantasy entered into Luma's light. She didn't know how it happened. He only knew that in some magical way, his metallic heart kept these stories. Stories of enchanted forests, of lost kingdoms, of trips to distant planets, of seas full of floating islands. Stories made of courage, laughter, hope. Stories made to never be forgotten. But the child grew up, like all children grow up. And one day, the lamp was taken to the attic, placed there carefully, but left behind. Since then, Luma has been sleeping. Not a sleep of sadness, but a waiting sleep. She knows, deep down, that her mission is not over yet. That at some point, perhaps on a special night, she will wake up again. And that when that happens, the dreams she has kept for so long will have a new chance to illuminate the world. Now, imagine that tonight, this same night, something different happens. A gentle rain begins to fall outside. The drops hit the roof with a rhythmic sound, like fingers tapping lightly on a forgotten song. The wind blows through the trees, making the leaves whisper ancient secrets. The attic breathes. The air smells of wet wood, of memories, of possibilities. And a spark, very small, almost invisible, pierces the air, coming from a corner hidden between stars and dreams. That spark meets Luma. And then, without warning, no rush, without fear, Luma awakens. She feels a sweet warmth run through her sleeping strands. He feels his little metal legs stretch out as if yawning. He feels his invisible eyes open to the world again. For the first time in a long time, Luma recalls. She is a lamp. She is a guardian. It is made of light, dreams, and hope. And tonight, she has a new mission. Find the right place to unleash the dreams you carry. Give them a new home. Give them new eyes to see them, new hearts to hold them, new souls to be enchanted. Because true dreams, the dreams of when we are small and believe in everything, never disappear. They just wait for the right moment to be reborn. And this story begins now. The attic was a place like few others. A place where time seemed to lie down and doze off, along with the ancient objects that lived there. As I climbed the narrow steps of the old wooden staircase, the air changed. It became thicker, sweeter, as if it carried the smell of years past. Wetwood, yellowed paper, old fabrics that kept memories in their weaves. The ceiling, low and sloping, was supported by strong oak beams, which seemed to have heard all the conversations, all the sighs, all the secrets of those who passed by. Between these sleeping walls, stories lived. Stories that no one else told. Stories that survived in the small details, in the dust that floated, golden, when the first rays of sunlight entered through the skylight, in the soft crack of a board that expanded and contracted with the cold of dawn, in the sweet perfume of dried flowers forgotten inside books. The attic was like a broken music box, where, every now and then, a lost note would slip away and fill the air with nostalgia. It was in this attic that Luma woke up. At first, she felt only a tingling, as if a very light breeze was touching her sleeping copper wires. Then a shy little light flickered inside her, like a star afraid to shine. And finally, with a small snap, almost like a baby's sigh, Luma awoke. His eyes, which no one saw, but which existed, were opened. And the world became color again. She was in a corner, between a pile of faded blankets and a box of forgotten toys. The dust settled on his pale blue body like silent snow. But inside, she was all warmth and curiosity. He looked around. The attic was immense for her, a forest made of tall furniture and gigantic objects. There was an old trunk, made of worn leather and rusty hardware, with the lid ajar as if yawning. There was a bookshelf where stacked books looked like towers of an abandoned kingdom. There was a bicycle without a wheel, lying on its side like a tired rider. And there were also toys, an iron train that seemed ready to leave at any moment, a faded-eyed teddy bear, and a small wooden airplane held together by invisible wires, bobbing gently in the air. The entire attic seemed to breathe, not with loud sounds, but with small suspiros, calm pops suaves, calm forgotten heartbeats. Luma tried to move her metallic little body. It was strange. His little legs, made of thin shafts, were rusty and stiff, but all it took was an effort, a strong desire, and she managed to untangle herself from the pile of blankets. He made a small awkward jump. He fell on his side. He creaked softly, and she laughed to herself. If luminaries can laugh. It was good to be alive. It was good to feel the world again. With effort, Luma straightened up. He took his first steps in the sleeping attic. Its metal feet made a funny sound against the wooden floor. Each step was a discovery. Each object was a souvenir. She approached the toy box. There, a wooden puppet slept with its eyes closed. A rag doll, in a dress stained with paint, held a dried flower in her hands. They seemed so serene. Luma felt like turning on her light, just a little bit, to illuminate them. But something inside her said it was better to wait, that there was a right time to shine, and that she would soon find out what it was. He kept walking. She passed a rocking chair that creaked slowly, moved by the wind that entered through some crack. It was as if the entire attic was cradling forgotten dreams. Further on, he saw an empty cage. His iron was golden, but rust was already eating away at his edges. Inside it, there was still a small wooden swing. Luma looked at the cage and wondered, was there a little bird there? One that sang at dawn? One that brought songs to those who knew how to listen? She smiled silently. I would like to imagine. He liked to dream. Suddenly, a glow caught his eye. It came from a distant wall. Luma walked there, curious, and he discovered a mirror. A large mirror with a frame carved in wooden arabesques, now chipped and worn. The mirror was dusty, but even so, he reflected. And what Luma saw in him left her speechless. She saw herself not like an old, forgotten lamp, but as a little being of light. A creature made of golden threads and blue sparks, with glowing eyes and thin legs that looked like they were drawn by an absent-minded painter. She saw herself as she really was, as it always was. And for the first time in a long time, he remembered. It was made to illuminate, to warm up, to keep dreams, and who knows, to free them. Luma touched the mirror with the tip of her wire. The glass shook as if smiling at her. And then, right there, in front of the mirror, Luma made a silent promise. I'm going to find a way to make my dreams fly again. The attic, which once seemed so large and empty, now seemed full of possibilities. Each chest could hide an adventure. Each suitcase could contain a whole world. Each object could have a story waiting to be woken up. And Luma wanted to wake them all up. She looked around with fresh eyes. The attic is no longer a forgotten place. It was now a map, a treasure, one universe. And she was the explorer, the small light blue lamp with a lit soul and sparkling dreams. The morning light was starting to get stronger. Small golden beams ran through the attic, painting streaks of heat on the wooden floor. And Luma, there in the middle of it all, raised his head. He felt the light touch his peeling surface. And it shone. It shone so softly that it didn't even look like light. It seemed like hope. It seemed like a first step. It seemed like the beginning of a great adventure. The entire attic seemed to breathe more alive that morning. The golden light invaded the space with gentleness, like fingers caressing the old furniture, the boxes, the toys. And in the middle of this forgotten world, a small light blue lamp, named Luma, moved with light and curious steps. She walked slowly, feeling each plank creaking under her thin metal feet. His invisible eyes shone. His heart of light beat faster. Because now she remembered. He remembered who he was. He remembered where he came from. And more importantly, he remembered an ancient secret that he carried deep in his soul, the legend of kept dreams. It all started many years ago, when Luma was still living in a child's room. It was a small room but full of magic. The walls were covered with drawings made in pencil and ink. There were books scattered everywhere. Fairy tales, adventure stories, maps of imaginary lands. And right next to the bed, on a time-worn nightstand, Luma stood. Every night his light was turned on. A warm, soft light that chased away fears and invited dreams to arrive. The child read. Or sometimes I made up stories in my head. She talked to herself, laughing at invisible adventures. Sometimes I cried when I missed her. And sometimes he just sighed, staring at the ceiling, sailing in seas that no one else saw. And every feeling, every thought, every dream in the air, he silently entered the light of Luma. Without anyone noticing, without anyone having to teach. That's how it worked. This is how all enchanted lamps worked, though few people knew it. Legends said that certain luminaries, born from a ray of moonlight and a breath of history, had the power to hold dreams. But not ordinary dreams. Not fleeting dreams, the kind we forget when we wake up. Luma kept the dreams that were seeds. Those who could grow one day. Those who were made of true hope. Each time its light shone on the child's sleeping skin. Every time I lit up a fairy tale page. Every time I touched a toy left open on the floor. A new dream entered her. Like a little star. Like a living spark. Luma did not see them as we do. She felt it. He felt each dream as a different warmth. Dreams of flying smelled of wind. Dreams of finding treasure tasted like adventure. The dreams of hugging the one she loved had a soft weight, like a blanket on a cold night. Over the years, Luma became full. Full of colors. Full of sounds. Full of promise. But the child grew up. How everyone grows. And one day, Luma was shut down. Saved. Forgotten. But dreams? The dreams remained. They never went out. They just slept with her. Waiting. Always esperando. As she walked through the attic that morning, Luma remembered everything. Every glow. Every laugh. Every small tear. Each hope delicate as butterfly wings. She carried all of this inside her. And now, she knew she couldn't keep it alone anymore. He needed to free his dreams. He needed to give them to the world again. But how? She stopped in front of an old toy box. He pushed the lid carefully. Inside, he found wooden soldiers, tin trains, porcelain dolls. And at the bottom of the box, wrapped in a piece of embroidered fabric, there was something different. Something that seemed to call her. Luma pulled the fabric slowly, and he revealed an old book. The cover was made of worn leather. The title was almost illegible, but Luma recognized it immediately. It was the Book of Unwritten Legends. A special book. A book that did not tell ordinary stories. He told stories that were still happening, or that they would still happen. Luma opened the book carefully. The pages were thin as moth wings, and the smell of old paper and fresh dream rose into the air. The letters seemed to dance before his invisible eyes. And then she found it. In the middle of the book, a whole page dedicated to a single sentence. When a dream keeper wakes up, she must seek the whole of the stars. There, under the light of memory and hope, dreams can be freed. The whole of the stars. Luma felt the name vibrate inside her. That was where I needed to go. It was there that his dreams would find wings. But where was this whole of the stars? She looked around. The attic was large, full of shadows and hiding places, full of possibilities. Maybe it was hidden among the old rolled-up maps? Or perhaps inside the forgotten piano in the corner, where the keys, when played, still released shy sounds? Or maybe behind the bookshelf, where dormant stories piled up like mountains. Luma knew it wouldn't be easy to find. But I didn't feel afraid. I felt something different. Something that felt like a warm breeze inside. Something that seemed courage. She was ready. Ready to search. Ready to walk. Ready to make your light really shine. As she thought, Luma noticed something else. She didn't have to do it alone. The entire attic was filled with objects that also carried forgotten dreams. Maybe if she called, maybe if she turned on her light a little harder, they would wake up too. And together, they could find their way. Luma took a deep breath. Of course, it had no lungs, but it was as if it had. He closed his invisible eyes, and he concentrated all his love, all your desire, all your hope, and let his light escape. Not a bright light, not a blinding light, but a warm, golden light full of promise. A light made of dreams. And then something incredible happened. On the other side of the attic, the wooden horse shuddered. His painted eyes blinked once. The old wooden plane shook its rusty propellers. The music box let out a hesitant note. And a small group of sleeping toys and objects began to awaken. Little by little, carefully, like flowers opening on the first morning of spring. Luma smiled. She knew she was no longer alone. He knew that together, they would find the whole of the stars. And that, together, they would free the dreams they had kept for so long. It was the beginning of a new adventure. An adventure made of friendship, of courage, of light, of dreams. Night had fallen over the attic, but it was no ordinary night. Outside, the sky was covered with heavy clouds, which hid the stars and made the darkness even deeper. The rain began to fall, first as a whisper, then as a song. Drops hit the old wooden roof, creating a slow and steady rhythm, like a forgotten song that returned to cradle the sleeping hearts. The sound of rain filled the entire attic, mingling with the small creaks of the walls and the sigh of the wind coming in through the cracks. It was as if the whole world was breathing together. And in the midst of this magical scenario, Luma was preparing to experience her first big change. She was in the center of the attic now. Around him, the other awake objects watched with invisible and attentive eyes. The wooden horse, already standing, swayed gently from side to side. The music box, shy, let out a high note, like a sigh. The old leather ball rolled lightly, almost imperceptibly, as if it were stretching. They all felt that something big was about to happen. Something that would forever change life inside that attic. Luma took a deep breath, or rather, let the sensation of breathing wash over her. His copper wires vibrated slightly. Its light blue surface appeared brighter, even without being plugged into any outlets. It was as if the energy came from within, from a place where old dreams still ignited small sparks of courage. She closed her invisible eyes for a moment, and he remembered. He remembered the nights when he illuminated stories of dragons, of distant seas, of kingdoms hidden in magical forests. She remembered the child who whispered wishes in the dark, entrusting her purest hope to the small, faithful light that Luma offered. He remembered everything he carried inside him: laughter, promises, adventures that were never lived. And he understood. To free these dreams, she first needed to free herself. So, Luma did something she had never done before. She decided to shine with all the strength she had. Not just to illuminate, but to wake up what was still asleep, to call what he still believed in, to transform what I still expected. His light started out as a tiny dot, a little golden dot right in the center of its metallic heart. But this point grew, and it grew, until a soft halo enveloped Luma. A warm, welcoming light, one of those that does not hurt the eyes or scare the soul. It was a light that invited, a light that said, "Come, you wake up. Let's dream again." The other objects felt it. The wooden horse slammed its hooves lightly on the ground. The leather ball bounced gently. The music box let out a small melody, hesitant, but full of sweetness. And little by little, more sounds began to appear in the attic. A small paper boat forgotten in a box stirred its sails. An ancient top spun once, creaking its faded colors. A pair of children's shoes, stored in a suitcase, seemed to take an invisible step. The entire attic was beginning to awaken. It was as if a silent wave was sweeping the place. Not a wave of water, but a wave of memories, of emotions, of life. Luma looked around, amazed. I had never seen anything like it. It was beautiful. It was exciting. It was like watching an entire field of flowers bloom at the same time, only in silence, only in the dark. And it was then that something even more surprising happened. A crack in the roof, previously hidden by dust and time, opened with the weight of the rain. And through it, even with all the heavy clouds, a single beam of light from the moon managed to enter. A silver lightning bolt, thin as a thread of hope. And that lightning touched the floor, right in the center of the attic. Exactly where Luma was. The light of the moon met the light of Luma. And for a moment, the entire attic shone. Not with clarity, but with magic. The shadows on the walls danced. The dust particles floated like small stars. And the dreams trapped inside the objects began to whisper. Tiny sounds, almost inaudible. Children's laughter. Sounds of winds in imaginary forests. Corners of invisible seas. Promises made in secret. Luma felt these voices vibrating within her. And he knew it was working. She was waking up her dreams. She was returning to the attic the soul he had always kept. The wooden horse approached slowly. He swayed carefully, as if dancing to the rhythm of a song that only he heard. The music box released a sad and sweet song. The leather ball bounced around, like a contented little dog. Each of them carried within them a memory, a piece of history. Each of them felt the call of the shining lamp. And then they all understood. They understood that they needed to follow Luma, that she was the key, that together they could find their way to the whole of the stars, that together they could free all the dreams they had kept. Luma flashed her light 3 times. A sign, an invitation, a promise. And all the objects awake formed a circle around him. Ready, certain, happy. The rain outside thickened. The wind howled through the trees. But inside, in the warmth of the dream-lit attic, there was only peace. There was only hope. There was only a beginning. And so, on the first night of change, with the sound of rain cradling your footsteps and the glow of courage warming your hearts, a small blue lamp, a wooden horse, a leather ball, a music box, and so many other forgotten objects began their journey. A journey to find the whole of the stars. A journey to give dreams back to the world. A journey to prove that, even in the darkest nights, there is always a light capable of turning on again. Just believe. Little Luma's light still shone, bright and welcoming, in the middle of the sleeping attic. Around her, the waking objects formed a silent circle, like little guardians of old memories. The rain continued to fall outside, now more rhythmic, as if the whole world was clapping very slowly, celebrating what was about to happen. The air smelled of wet wood, old dust, and fresh dream. It was the perfect night to start an adventure. Luma looked at her new companions. The wooden horse with its manes painted white. The music box with the chipped lid but the sound still sweet. The leather ball, bouncing and eager. The old wooden plane, which swayed on the ceiling as if it were ready to fly. The colorful spinning top that spun slowly, unhurriedly, on the dusty ground. Each of them had a story within them. Each of them carried precious memories. And now, they were all united by the same desire, to find the whole of the stars and free their dreams. The first step was taken carefully. Luma, in front, lighting the way with her soft light. The wooden horse followed her, with firm and rhythmic steps. The music box, carried by the leather ball, released small notes with each swing. The little plane hummed lightly, as if blowing encouragement to the group, and the top spun from time to time, as if dancing to cheer everyone up. The attic seemed bigger now, deeper, more full of secrets. There were hidden paths among the piles of books. There were mountains made of suitcases and trunks piled up. There were forests of broken chairs and fluttering curtains. The attic was like a whole miniature world, forgotten among tiles and old wood. And each corner held its own surprises. Right at the beginning of the journey, they passed through the Bridge of Shadows. It was an old fallen door, stretched between two huge cabinets. Below it, an abyss of piled boxes. Was it safe? Nobody knew. But it was the only way. Luma took a deep breath, or what it would be like to breathe into a lamp, and took the first step over the bridge. Their little metal feet creaked against the aged wood. Behind her, the little horse hesitated. But seeing Luma's courage, he also moved forward. The little plane, floating in the air, passed overhead like an explorer of the winds. The leather ball rolled carefully, and the music box trembled, but it was still firm. Every step over the bridge made the entire attic creak and sigh. But together, they went through. When they reached the other side, they let out silent laughter. If objects could laugh, of course. Because they knew they had won the first challenge. And they were ready to move on. After the bridge, they entered the Bosque das Cortinas. There, huge fabrics hung from the ceiling, like trees in an enchanted forest. And between them, currents of wind danced, blowing invisible songs. The curtains swayed like the arms of gentle ghosts. The air was colder there. It seemed that the attic breathed harder in this piece. Luma, lighting the way, saw strange shadows forming among the fabrics. But she was not afraid. I was curious. Each fold of fabric hid a new landscape, an old map pinned to the wall, a cracked globe, a forgotten explorer's hat. And more than that, each fold seemed to hold a memory. When they passed near a curtain, small whispers emerged. Laughter of children playing. Lullabies of voices that no longer existed. Promises made on golden afternoons. It was like walking inside a dream that still pulsated even after so long. But the curtain grove was also treacherous. Some of them got tangled up in the objects, trying to hold on to them. Others covered holes in the ground, invisible traps. It was in one of these moments that the leather ball almost fell. She was rolling happily when she suddenly sank into a hidden gap under a heavy curtain. She was arrested, unable to get out. Luma ran there. He lit up the hole with his golden light. The little horse approached, supporting one of its wooden legs to serve as support. The little plane flew over the area, making drafts of air that pushed the curtain to the side. And with a lot of effort, a lot of delicacy, and a lot of patience, they managed to pull the ball out. When she finally let go, everyone stopped for a moment. They looked at each other, and they smiled. A mouthless smile, but full of feeling, because they had learned something important. When we walk together, no one is left behind. The curtain grove was left behind. Now, before them, there was the Valley of Mirrors. A narrow corridor where dozens of antique mirrors were propped up against the walls. Some cracks, others dirty, but all are still capable of reflecting. As she passed between them, Luma saw strange images. It wasn't just his reflexes. They were memories. Fragments of old dreams that mirrors had absorbed over the years. She saw a small boy laughing while building a pillow castle. A girl running around in a red cape, pretending to be a heroine. An elderly man writing letters by the light of a lamp. A young woman painting a huge picture, full of hope in her eyes. The mirrors showed pieces of lives that had passed. Pieces of love. Pieces of nostalgia. Pieces of eternity. Luma stopped in front of a particularly large mirror. And there, she saw something that moved her deeply. She saw the child who loved her. The little boy who, every night, turned on his light and told whispered stories before going to sleep. He was there, smiling, talking to her, believing in her. Even after so long, Luma flashed her light, like a nod back, a silent promise that he would never forget, that he would always keep that memory as his most precious treasure. The group crossed the valley of mirrors in silence, each one immersed in their own memories, each one carrying within themselves another little piece of courage, another little piece of hope, another little piece of dream. When they finally left the hallway, they were different, lighter, stronger, more united, because you knew they weren't just walking to free old dreams. They were also rediscovering their own hearts, your own reasons for existing, their own sparkles. The journey inside the attic was still just beginning. There were still challenges ahead. There were still ways to discover. There were still stars to reach. But Luma and her friends were no longer the same. Now they were dream travelers, light guards, and above all, friends. After crossing the Valley of Mirrors, the attic seemed even more vast. It was as if, with each step, he extended himself a little further, opening new paths, revealing new mysteries. The rain continued to pound the roof, like patient fingers playing a distant drum. The sound was comfortable, like a lullaby. The air was fresh and smelled of wet earth mixed with the old perfume of wooden boxes and forgotten books. And there, in that silent, pulsating universe, Luma and her companions continued their journey. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They just walked together, illuminated by the soft light that Luma spread with each step. The next challenge appeared unexpectedly. That's when they passed a bunch of old suitcases piled up. The largest of these, a caramel leather suitcase with worn metal clasps, suddenly fell, opening with a dull crack. From inside it, something slipped. A roll of paper, yellowed by time. Long and crumpled. He unrolled slowly on the wooden floor, as if he were awakening from a deep sleep. Luma approached, curious. Its golden light illuminated the paper, and what she saw made her metallic heart beat faster. It was a map, but not an ordinary map. It was a star map. The lines on the paper were drawn by hand. Thin strokes, almost shaky. Small stars painted with gold paint twinkled in Luma's light. There were known constellations, such as the Big Dipper, Orion's Belt, and others that seemed invented, the Dance of the Swans, the Boat of Dreams, the Heart of the Night. In the center of the map, in careful lettering, was written, "For those who still believe, follow the trails of light, and you will find the whole of the stars." Luma felt a wave of heat run through her. The map was real. The legend was true. And now, they had the key to finding the place where their dreams could be unleashed. She called her friends with a faint flicker of light. The wooden horse approached first, its painted eyes shining with excitement. The leather ball rolled until it touched the map, as if wanting to help. The music box let out a low melody, like a murmur of approval. And the little wooden airplane came down from the air and landed next to them, flapping its wings as if smiling. Together, they looked at the map. There were paths drawn on it, trails that wound through the attic like rivers of stars. Each trail was marked by small symbols: a crescent moon, a golden compass, an open door, a brilliant key, and finally, in the far corner, a large black circle, surrounded by bright dots. It was there, the whole of the stars, the fate of all of them. But the path would not be simple. The map showed obstacles. Passage of forgotten voices, sea of torn paper, Mountain of Broken Umbrellas. Strange names. Magical names. Names that promised adventures. Luma didn't hesitate. It was time to leave. Before bending the map carefully, something caught his attention. In the lower corner, almost hidden among the drawings, there was a tiny sentence. The light within you will show what the eye cannot see. Luma kept these words deep in her heart. He knew that more than the map in his hands, it was his own light that would guide the group. With the map caught between her wires, Luma moved on. The little horse trotted by his side, firm and loyal. The music box swung on the back of the leather ball, dropping shy notes that sounded like distant laughter. The little plane flew over the group, drawing circles of joy in the air. The top spun from time to time, as if cheering everyone up with its faded colors. They were a small caravan of dreamers, each one carrying memories, each one carrying hope, each one carrying light. The first destination on the map was the Passage of the Forgotten Voices. As they walked, the attic changed again. The walls became narrower, the deepest shadows, and the denser silence. But Luma shone. Its golden light drove away the darkness. And the whispers began. They were soft voices, almost like the sound of rain. Voices that spoke of promises made and forgotten, of songs that no one else sang, of childhood games lost in time. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. The group walked in respectful silence. Each voice sounded like a feather floating in the air, touching their hearts with memories of things they had never experienced but that felt familiar. As she crossed the passage, Luma realized that each voice left a small spark in its path. Little lights that floated like golden fireflies. And with each step, she felt her own light grow stronger. As if forgotten dreams fed her. As if, somehow, they also believed her. When they finally came out of the Passage of the Forgotten Voices, everyone was different. Lighter, more full of stories, more full of good nostalgia. The next point was the sea of torn paper. It was a huge attic space where hundreds of sheets of paper covered the floor. Torn book pages, letters that were never sent, tickets that never reached their destination. The ground bled beneath his feet with every step. It was like walking on an ocean of unfinished stories. Luma led the group carefully. Its golden light revealed loose words on the pages. Love, hope, departure, return. Every word seemed to vibrate at his touch. Each leaf seemed to breathe. In the middle of the sea of torn paper, they found a different sheet. A blue, intact sheet, folded into the shape of a boat. Luma sensed something special in her. A different heat. He took the small paper boat and loaded it. She knew he would play an important role in her journey. I knew that, somehow, he also carried a dream. When they crossed the sea, they came to the foot of the Mountain of the Broken Umbrellas. It was a huge pile of broken, twisted, forgotten umbrellas. They looked like withered flowers, or birds that have lost the ability to fly. Climbing the mountain was difficult. The wooden horse used its strength to push its friends. The little plane flew over and indicated easier paths. The leather ball rolled in front, opening the way. The music box released little songs to encourage. And Luma, shining with all her strength, guided the group. When they finally reached the top, they saw it. In the distance, almost touching the ceiling of the attic, the whole of the stars. A black opening surrounded by points of light, as if someone had drawn a whole night inside. It was beautiful. It was mesmerizing. It was fate. Luma felt her metallic heart race. He felt the light inside him vibrate. He felt the old dreams begin to awaken. The journey was near its end, but the most important adventure was yet to come. The whole of the stars was there, close enough that Luma and her friends could feel his presence. It was like a magnet, tugging at their hearts with a gentle force but impossible to resist. From the top of Broken Umbrella Mountain, they could see a circle of darkness surrounded by bright dots, like a knight trapped inside the attic. And in the middle of that pitch, an invisible path. Luma clutched the small blue boat-shaped sheet she had found in the sea of torn paper. He felt that this small object would play an important role now. I knew they would need courage to move on. He knew they were about to face the most delicate crossing of the entire journey. They came down from the mountain carefully, the wooden horse trotting firmly, the leather ball bouncing softly, the music box resonating soft notes, the little wooden plane flying in protective circles, and Luma in front with her golden light guiding them. Every step echoed in the empty attic. Every sound seemed to be absorbed by the growing darkness. But no one hesitated. No more. When they reached the ground again, they realized the path to the hole of the stars was not simple. Between them and the shining circle, there was a chasm, a dark, deep space that seemed to swallow its own light. You couldn't see the ground. You couldn't see the edges. You could only feel the emptiness. On the ground, on the edge of the abyss, there was an old, almost invisible sign written in crooked letters. The invisible bridge only appears to those who believe. Luma read it silently, and his metallic heart understood what he had to do. She turned to her friends. He shone his light in soft pulses, as if he were speaking without words. We need to trust. We need to believe. Even if we don't see it, the path will be there. The wooden horse, although its paws were firm, trembled a little. The music box creaked its lid nervously. The leather ball stopped bouncing and stood still. The little plane hovered in the air, hesitant. It was normal to be afraid. It was normal to hesitate. But there, at that moment, they needed to be bigger than their fears. They needed to remember who they were. Of everything they lived to get there. Of everything they carried inside them. Luma took a deep breath, or what it would be like to breathe for someone made of wires and light. And he took the first step, advanced. And for a moment, it seemed like it was going to fall into the void. His body swayed in the air. His light wavered. But then, he felt something solid under his little metal feet. Something that his eyes did not see, but that his heart recognized. It was like stepping on intertwined bundles of hope. The invisible bridge existed. For those who believed. For those who had courage. For those who carried dreams. Luma winked at her friends. He called them with the light. And one by one, they advanced. The wooden horse closed his painted eyes and took a step. He felt the ground. He trotted slowly. The leather ball rolled, shaking a little, but it continued. The music box jumped on the back of the ball, trusting. The little plane flew lower, following closely. And the top spun between them, drawing circles of courage in the air. Crossing the invisible bridge was magical. The void was below, black as a bottomless pit. But above them, the attic ceiling seemed to disappear. And in its place, a sky full of stars appeared. Thousands. Millions. Stars of all colors. Stars that twinkled like the eyes of old friends. Stars who whispered forgotten songs. Every step over the invisible bridge made the sky above shine even brighter. And within the heart of each traveler, something was transformed. The wooden horse felt stronger. The leather ball felt lighter. The music box played a melody that seemed to rock the universe itself. The little plane was picking up speed, spinning in joy. And Luma felt her light expand until it touched the stars. In the middle of the bridge, something incredible happened. The small blue paper boat Luma was carrying began to glow. It unfolded slowly, and it has transformed. It turned into a small candle of light, a living flame, a torch made of old dreams. Luma held the torch carefully, and he realized it lit the way to the bridge. It revealed invisible steps. It showed where it was safe to step. And most importantly, it fed everyone's courage. The crossing, which seemed impossible, was now a dance. A silent ballet over emptiness. Every step was a celebration. Each invisible smile was a pact. They weren't just crossing the chasm. They were going through their own fears, your own limits, their own impossibles. And as they moved forward, they could hear the dreams inside them waking up. They could hear children's laughter, murmurs of old stories, promises of golden mornings, songs that are never forgotten. The end of the bridge was approaching. The star hole shone ahead like a black jewel surrounded by light. The air trembled. The ground vibrated. The world seemed to hold its breath. With one last step full of faith, Luma and her friends crossed over. They stepped on solid ground. And they saw, up close, the entrance to the hole of the stars. It was more beautiful than they could have imagined. A portal made of shadow and brightness, of silence and song, of end and beginning. They looked at each other, speechless, with lights in the invisible eyes, with hearts full of stories. They knew what they had to do. They were ready. Luma clutched the small candle of light in her metallic hands, and with a gentle gesture, he lit the entrance to the star hole. A gentle wind current blew. Small golden particles rose into the air, and the passage opened, a direct path to the heavens, for dreams, for everything that had been kept with so much love. It was time to free what was imprisoned. It was time to make the impossible happen. It was time to give dreams back to the world. And with their hearts glowing, Luma and her friends took the first steps towards eternity. The whole of the stars seemed to breathe. As Luma and her friends approached the entrance, the surrounding air vibrated gently, as if the universe itself was waking up after a deep sleep. The lights surrounding the portal rotated slowly, forming invisible designs in the air, as if drawing constellations just for them. It was beautiful. It was scary. It was magical. And above all, it was real. Luma stopped right in front of the portal. Its golden light flickered, blending with the silver light emanating from the star hole. She looked back. The wooden horse, firm. The leather ball rolling slowly. The music box, pulsing a soft melody. The little wooden plane, floating around them like a little guardian of the wind. Everyone was ready. Everyone knew, once they crossed, nothing would be the same as before. Luma took a deep breath, or what would be a breath for her, and took the first step. The portal enveloped her like a warm breeze. The sense of affection, acceptance, welcome. An almost inaudible whisper seemed to speak. "You're expected. You belong. Come." As they crossed the portal, the world changed. The attic disappeared. The smell of wet wood and dust gave way to a soft scent of flowers and fresh wind. The darkness turned into an infinite starry sky. It was like being inside a living painting, where the stars were so close that they could be touched, where the ground seemed to be made of golden mist, where everything was light, serene, and eternal. In the midst of this new world, there was something, or rather, someone. A tall, softly contoured figure. It didn't look like it was made of flesh and blood. No, but Madeira, nor fabric. It was made of light, by heart, the guardian of dreams. He had no face, but he had bright eyes. Eyes that conveyed calm, understanding, kindness. When he looked at Luma and her friends, they all felt a different warmth. A warmth that came from within, as if they were being hugged without being touched. As if someone were saying without words, "I know you. I've waited for you. You've arrived." The guardian held out a hand made of stars, and from them sprang a beam of golden light, which touched Luma's metallic forehead. She felt a good shiver, as if old memories were being read with affection, as if his history was being respected. as if, for the first time, everything she carried had been understood. Then the guardian turned to each of his companions. The little horse, the leather ball, the music box, the little plane, the spinning top, and for each of them, a gesture of welcome, a silent exchange of promises and dreams. Without saying a word, the guardian indicated a direction. And there, something even more beautiful emerged. A tree. Not an ordinary tree, but a tree of dreams. Its branches shone like silver threads. Its leaves were made of small pieces of light. And on each sheet, there was a fragment of a dream kept. A piece of history. A precious memory. The guardian pointed to the tree and then to the group. It was clear. It was time to return dreams. It was time to free them. Luma felt her metallic heart beat strongly. She knew what to do. With all the care in the world, he advanced to the tree of dreams. And one by one, he released the fragments he carried inside him. Each dream came out of her like a small golden star. It floated in the air, and it landed softly on a branch of the tree. Each star was different. Some shone with the color of the sun, others with the deep blue of the ocean. Some seemed to be made of laughter, others of sweet tears. But they were all beautiful. They were all precious. The wooden horse also approached, and from within his painted eyes, small beams of light escaped. Dreams of racing in green fields. Dreams of sunny afternoons. Dreams of freedom. The leather ball rolled up to the tree, and from it came sparks of joyful play, of screams of happiness on improvised soccer fields, of friendships created with a simple "let's play." The music box dropped its notes one last time, and each note became a dream. Dreams of dancing in old halls, with clasped hands, of shy glances exchanged under golden chandeliers. The little plane spun around the tree, leaving behind traces of travel dreams, from lands never seen before, of adventures in infinite skies. The top spun on the foggy ground, and he spread childhood dreams, of endless afternoons, of invented jokes, of pure innocence. The tree of dreams shone. It shone so brightly that it seemed to have created a new sun, and around her, the whole world smiled. The dream keeper approached Luma. He placed his luminous hand on his metal head, and without saying anything, he conveyed a feeling so strong that Luma felt like crying, if lamps could cry. The sentiment was simple: gratitude. And then, something even more magical happened. The guardian blew softly, and from the tree of dreams, the leaves began to loosen. Each leaf became a star. Each star gained wings, and they flew out into the world, to distant lands, for sleeping children, for forgotten dreamers. Luma and her friends watched in silence. They knew they were seeing something sacred. They knew they were living a miracle. They knew they had accomplished their mission. After all the stars flew, the tree of dreams remained. Steadfast, bright, hooray! And the whole of the stars looked even more beautiful, even more welcoming, even more full of promise. The dream keeper approached again, and with a slow gesture, he invited Luma and her friends to stay, to be part of that place, resting, to become guardians too. But Luma knew, she felt it, there were still dreams to illuminate. There were still children in need of stories. There were still worlds in need of light. She and her friends needed to go back. They needed to take with them everything they had learned. They needed to keep spreading dreams. The guardian understood, and he smiled, a smile made of stars and silence. He held out his hands, and one by one, he placed small seeds of light in the heart of each traveler. Present, promises, future. Luma felt the seed vibrate inside her. It was hot. She was alive. It was eternal. She knew she would never be alone again. I knew I would always carry that light. I knew it was now and forever. A dream keeper. The tree of dreams still shone behind them, like a serene beacon in the midst of infinity. The newly liberated stars had already departed, flying to the farthest corners of the earth, taking with them promises, laughter, and forgotten hopes. Luma and her friends stood there for a moment, soaking up the deep peace that filled everything around them. It was like being inside a dream that I knew was a dream, and yet I wanted to last forever. The dream keeper approached one last time. Her eyes made of light met Luma's invisible eyes. And without words, without sounds, he said goodbye. A nod, a soft glow, a feeling of warm embrace, even without touch. It was the purest form of gratitude and respect. Then, the guardian raised his hands. And at his gesture, the whole of the stars began to change. The bright darkness turned into a soft spiral of colors: blue, gold, lilac, silver. The colors swirled, calling back to the attic, calling home, calling to the real world. Luma looked at her friends. Each of them shone a little brighter now. The wooden horse seemed stronger, almost ready to gallop for real. The leather ball bounced lightly, full of serene energy. The music box spun slowly, releasing a melody so sweet it sounded like a kiss of wind. The little plane flew in wide circles, with the joy of someone who found his sky again. The top went round and round, as if it wanted to dance forever. They were different. They were complete. They were ready. Luma took the first step towards the color spiral. The others followed. And when they entered the spiral, they felt no fear. They felt peace. A peace so deep that it seemed to warm every wire, every piece of wood, every drop of paint and metal that made up their bodies. They felt that they were taking with them all the dreams they had released. What's more, they were also carrying new seeds of light, ready to bloom where they were needed. The spiral enveloped them. It was like swimming in fragrant clouds, like running on golden leaves, like flying in winds that sang lullabies. Luma closed her invisible eyes, and he let himself go. He felt time and space dissolve around him. I felt the attic approaching. I felt the real world calling. But he knew he would never be the same again. When they opened their eyes again, they were back to the attic. The smell of old wood and sweet dust greeted them like old friends. The rain outside had stopped, and through the broken skylight, the silver light of the moon flooded the space with a soft, cold glow. It was early morning. It was silence. It was home. The attic, however, also looked different. It was no longer just a storehouse of forgotten things. Now it was a sanctuary, a secret garden where dreams and stories breathed side by side. Every piece of furniture, every box, every toy had a new glow, a new presence, a new promise. Luma slowly descended from the beam of light. His little metal feet touched the worn wood. She looked around. His friends were there, smiling with my heart, grateful, happy, alive. They knew what to do. They didn't need to talk. They didn't need to plan. Their hearts knew. Now they would be the guardians of the attic. Now they would see to it that dreams were never forgotten. Now it would be the soft whispers that would guide new sleeping children. Luma walked to a special corner, a small piece of wooden furniture, half hidden by blankets. On it, there was an old lampshade, turned off for years. She climbed carefully, and there he turned on his light. Not strong, not dazzling, but soft. Hooray! Its glow spread across the attic like an embrace. Every toy, every book, every piece of memory lit up slightly. The wooden horse lay down next to a doll. The leather ball rested against an old suitcase. The music box closed its lid, as if falling asleep smiling. The little wooden airplane floated until it stopped suspended on a forgotten wire. The top spun one last time and slept. And Luma sat there, glowing in silence, feeling that he had fulfilled his purpose, feeling that everything made sense, feeling that somehow he had become part of the very history of the world. The moon was passing through the window. The attic was breathing. The night sang. And Luma, with her tiny light, kept all those dreams. He took care of all those secrets. He protected all those hopes. And he knew, from the bottom of his being, whenever a child, somewhere, closed his eyes and asked for a story, whenever a tired adult sighed for a little peace, whenever someone forgot how to dream, she would be there, with its simple light, with your warm soul, with your infinite love. And in the attic, on that calm night, a new star was born. A small star, made of copper, dust and courage, made of memories, hopes and forgotten smiles, made of all that is good and that should never be lost, made of light, made of dreams, made of eternity. The dawn advanced silently over the world. The houses slept. The streets dreamed. The wind drifted lightly between sleeping trees. But up there in that old house, under a worn roof full of history, there was a place that knew no sleep, the attic. The attic that now breathed like a tranquil heart. The attic he had woken up never to fall asleep for real again. Luma was still there, in her small illuminated corner. His metallic body rested, but his light remained on, alive, serene. She didn't need words. It didn't need movement. His mere presence was enough. She was the guardian of silence, the sentinel of dreams, the beacon of those who, without knowing it, still needed to believe. The wooden horse beside him moved from time to time, swaying gently back and forth, as if cradling invisible songs. The leather ball, even motionless, seemed to hold a quiet energy in itself, ready to awaken jokes at any moment. The music box, from time to time, let out a shy note, as if smiling while sleeping. The little wooden airplane floated slowly, moved by invisible air currents, drawing dream routes over the attic. And the spinning top. The spinning top. From time to time he twirled alone, twirling as if dancing to some music that only enchanted objects could hear. The attic was more than walls and ceiling now. It was a secret world, temple of memories, a garden of stories. Each dusty box held an adventure waiting to be rediscovered. Every piece of old fabric still had the sense of old hugs. Each forgotten book contained dormant universes, ready to be opened with a sigh. Luma's light spread life everywhere. Wherever his light touched, small glows appeared. A toy car flashed its tin wheels. A porcelain doll discreetly adjusted her torn dress. A forgotten drum beat a low, almost imperceptible measure. It was as if all the objects there had made a silent pact. As long as there is hope in the world, we will be here. Luma understood this mission. I felt this responsibility with joy. She knew that even if no one climbed into the attic for years, even if the outside world forgot, even if the seasons changed, cities grew, and people grew old, she would be there, keeping the flame of dreams alive. Waiting, watching, welcoming. Some nights, the attic felt even more special. When the full moon invaded through the broken skylight. When the wind blew melodies between the cracks in the walls. When the smell of wet earth rose from the garden after the rain. On those nights, Luma was sure she could hear soft footsteps coming up the stairs. Footsteps that didn't make noise. Dream steps. Steps of memories. Steps of children who, even grown up, still returned there in thought, looking for their lost stories. On nights like this, the attic lit brighter. Shadows danced on the walls. The boxes sighed. The toys woke up. And together, they told stories without words. Stories made of images, perfumes, and melodies. Stories that only the heart could understand. Some stories were of courage. of children who faced invisible dragons under the bed, of dreamers who sailed invented seas with paper boats. Others were of nostalgia, of dolls waiting for their owners to return, from books whispering adventures to absent ears. And others were hopeful, of leather balls dreaming of new play fields, of lamps waiting to light up new worlds under warm blankets. The attic was like a lung. It inspired dreams. Memories expired. It kept the world lighter without anyone noticing. It was a little secret between heaven and earth, between night and dawn, between the past and the future. And Luma knew this silent work was the most important of all, because sometimes a shy little light in the corner of an old attic was enough to keep the ability to dream alive. A spark of remembrance was enough to rekindle hope in someone's heart. A silent presence was enough to prevent the world from forgetting those who were once children. And then, night after night, Luma continued her loving vigil, watching the seasons change through the small broken window, listening to the rain, the wind, the rustling of the trees, feeling the passage of time as if feeling the breath of a sleeping friend, calm, certain, eternal. She knew that one day, someone would climb the creaking stairs again. Perhaps a curious child. Maybe an adult tired of growing up so much. Maybe someone who needed to find something they didn't know they had lost. And when that happened, when the old doorknob turned, when the heavy door opened, when a pair of amazed eyes invaded the attic, Luma would be there, with its golden light, with your soul full, with his invisible arms ready to welcome. The attic that never sleeps is not just a place. It's a feeling. It's a promise. It is a reminder that there will always be room for dreams, even when everything seems forgotten. And so, under the silent watch of Luma and her friends, the attic breathed. And he dreamed. And he loved it. And he waited. Because, deep down, the attic that never sleeps doesn't just hold old objects. It holds all that is most beautiful, purest, and truest in each one of us. Keep what really matters. The hours passed slowly and silently in the woke attic. Outside, the dawn began to give way to the dawn. The first shy brushstrokes of light tinged the sky a deep blue, blending into the last embrace of the night. Inside the attic, everything was in perfect calm. The wooden horse had fallen asleep standing up, with its head bowed, like an old guardian dreaming of green fields. The leather ball rested next to a forgotten game box, like a small sleeping planet. The music box released a very, very low sound, a melody that seemed made only for the stars. The little wooden airplane floated motionless overhead, like a leaf forgotten in the wind. The top, after so many turns, rested in a corner, like a satisfied warrior. And Luma continued to glow. Constant, peaceful, like a flame that never goes out. At that moment, something new began to happen. Something Luma had never felt before. A breath. Not the wind that came in through the cracks, but a different breath. A breath of life, of change, to wake up. Downstairs, on the floor of the house, soft footsteps crossed the sleeping corridors. It was like a lost echo. Lightweight, hesitant, hopeful. Luma felt her glow pulse brighter. His heart of light recognized that sign. It was what they expected. It was what they dreamed of. It was the arrival of the first dreamer. The handle of the old attic door spun with a sweet creak. The door opened slowly, as if it had waited too long for this moment. And there, standing on the doorstep, was a boy. Long pajamas, with her eyes wide open and her hair messed up by sleep. He looked at the attic as if he had found a treasure he did not even know he was looking for. His eyes, so large and lively, reflected all the stars that the attic hid. The boy took a step inside. The floor creaked softly under his bare feet. He looked around in wonder. He saw the old toys, He saw the boxes of stories. He smelled wood and dreams in the air. But it was Luma who caught his eye. The small blue lamp shone in a corner on a worn piece of furniture. His light was unlike any other light the boy had ever seen. It wasn't cold like electric lights. It wasn't hard like modern lanterns. It was a light that seemed familiar in some way he couldn't explain. The boy walked to Luma with small, careful steps, as if approaching something sacred. When he got closer, he knelt on the ground and looked at her closely. Luma, in response, flashed her light slowly, like a silent hello, like a hug made of shine. The boy smiled, a shy but true smile. And then he reached out and touched Luma with his fingertips. He didn't press any buttons. He didn't try to turn it on. He just pulled over. As someone who understands, instinctively, that what is alive does not need to be forced to shine. The instant the boy's finger touched Luma's base, a small wave of heat ran through the entire attic. It was like the flapping of the wings of 1,000 invisible butterflies. The wooden horse trembled slightly. The leather ball spun on itself. The music box struck a bright note. The little plane shook in the air. The top made a timid turn, and Luma's light expanded softly, enveloping everything in a golden embrace. The boy closed his eyes. And then, without understanding how, he knew. I knew that this place was special. I knew I wasn't alone. I knew I could dream there. Without fear. No rush. Without forgetting. He sat on the floor, leaning against the furniture where Luma rested. He hugged his knees to his chest. And he stared at the light. From time to time, his eyes blinked slowly. From time to time, his head would hang to the side. Gradually, sleep came again. But it was a different sleep. It was a light sleep, full of promise. As the boy fell asleep there, in the middle of the woke attic, small dreams began to appear in the air. Dreams made of golden dust. Dreams made of laughter. Dreams made of mornings that were yet to come. Each dream floated slowly, like a feather. Each dream found a place to rest. The little horse dreamed that he ran through endless fields, under eternally blue skies. The leather ball dreamed of the games of children who were not even born yet. The music box dreamed of dancing in light-filled halls. The little plane dreamed of flights without limits, crossing seas of clouds. The top dreamed of spins that would last forever. And Luma dreamed that her light reached every corner where there was a child in need of a little hope. The morning came slowly, pouring its golden light through the cracks in the roof. But the boy remained there, sleeping. Protected, welcomed, beloved. And Luma continued to shine. Because now she knew, now everyone knew, that they had fulfilled their mission. That they had woken up the first dreamer. That they had rekindled the spark that should never be extinguished. And so, in the attic that never sleeps, under the watchful eye of enchanted toys and a lamp made of love, the first awakened dream blossomed. And the world, even if I didn't know it, became a slightly lighter place. A little bit prettier, a little more full of hope. All because of a light that never gave up shining. The day was born in full. The sunlight filled every corner of the house, bringing that pleasant warmth of carefree mornings. The leaves of the trees outside danced to the rhythm of a gentle breeze. The smell of wet earth rose from the garden. The birds sang their ancient melodies as if celebrating something very special. But up there, above all that, the attic was still different. More than a place. He was now a heart beating silently inside the house. The boy woke up slowly. He stretched. He looked around as if awakening in a good dream. For a moment, he almost doubted what he had experienced. But then his eyes met Luma. There, shining softly on the furniture. No rush. No requirements. Just present. Just live. And the boy smiled. smile of someone who understands that some mysteries do not need to be explained. Only senses. Just stored. He stood up slowly. He ran his hand over the sleeping toys. He whispered, "Thank you," to the golden light fixture. And he walked back to the stairs, his heart light, his hands empty and his soul full. As she went downstairs, the attic remained silent. But it was a special silence. A silence that spoke. That whispered. That promised. He promised that he would always be there. For that boy. For any dreamer who needed to find their way back. For all those who sometimes forget that dreaming is necessary. Luma watched through the broken window as the boy disappeared below. The sun kissed her messy hair. The world was waiting for him. But now, he carried something inside him that would never be lost. A spark. A light. A piece of the attic. The piece of it. And then, slowly, Luma turned her light inward. He looked at the little horse that slept leaning on the corner. The leather ball that dreamed silently. The music box that still murmured songs from another era. The little wooden airplane that floated in a weightless sleep. The spinning top that slept as if it were still spinning in dreams. They knew it too. They had fulfilled their purpose. But it was not an end. It was a start. At every sunrise. Every silent dawn. With each gentle storm hitting the roof. They would be there. Watching. Taking care. Welcoming. And always, whenever the outside world needed it, the attic would whisper again. I would call back those who needed dreams. Of hope. Of shelter. Of light. And so, as the sun rose in the sky, Luma blinked one last time before resting. His copper wires vibrated slightly. His metallic body shone with the warmth of 1,000 stored dreams. She knew. The most beautiful work is the one that no one sees. It is the one that happens in silence. That happens deep in the heart. And in the attic, that old attic that never sleeps. While the wind blew new songs through the cracks. While the golden dust danced lazily in the beams of light. While the whole house breathed together, a new secret blossomed. A secret made of faith, of tenderness, of silent promises, of light that never goes out.